Thank you, Catherine. Hi, everyone. So, as mentioned, my name is Ben and I'm a student here at the College of Legal Practice, and I'm on the part-time Master's course in legal practice, which encompasses both the preparation for both SQE1 and SQE2. And as Catherine has rightly mentioned, I sat the SQE1 exams back in July, seems like a lifetime ago now, and I have done the SQE1 prep course as part of the Masters, and I've started my first transactional module, which is in dispute resolution. So I am going to discuss my experience of the course so far, which I started back in February. And if you have any questions at any point, please do pop them in the chat and I can answer them at the end. So a bit of background about why I started the Master's course. So I decided to do the part-time Master's program as I thought it'd very much work alongside my full-time role at Marks & Spencer as a paralegal in the employment law team. So I already have my 2 years qualifying legal experience. So I wanted a Master's SQE course to further my career as solicitor, but also broaden my knowledge of law and different areas of law that are covered as part of the CULP Master's course. And I've been very impressed with how the course has been delivered, the support and the materials on offer, which I will run through now. So firstly, I really like how the content is delivered. It's structured in a way which allows you to understand the material and then retain it. There's a simple pattern for each module and each subunit of the course, which is easy to understand. The town halls, as Catherine's mentioned, are really useful to help you plan your week of study and go over important announcements such as SQE updates, date reminders to book your SQE exams, and also to discuss feedback submitted by other students, which I believe it definitely shows that the college is definitely listening to us and acting on our feedback. So you start off each subunit by watching an introductory video or podcast about the content you need to cover for the exam. And this is very useful because it allows you to quickly understand the main principles of the law before you go over to the more in-depth reading. And when you get to the reading required, which is in a lot more detail, it is laser focused on the content that you need to know for the exam. It is very understandable and gives you useful assessment tips for the SQE throughout, which are very, very helpful. You then start to consolidate and retain your understanding of the legal principles by doing a short interactive activity and practice multiple choice questions, which are structured in exactly the same way as the exam. And I've sat the SQE1 exam and I can truly say that the MCQs that are part of the course are very reflective of the SQE1 real life questions in the exam. So this helps you when you're doing these practice questions through the course. It really does help you put your knowledge that you've learned into practice. And I really like this way of learning is you understand the content quickly in a simple way and then you put it into practice, which I believe is the best possible way to prepare you for the exam. So when I was in, I guess many people on this call are in the position of choosing SQE providers. It is difficult, and I was in exactly the same position a few short months ago. But when I was looking for different providers, the key thing for me was support, and the College of Legal Practice really from the get-go demonstrated a level of support that I didn't really witness with other providers. The student services team answered any queries I had quickly and really helped me navigate through the SQE process and what to expect on the course. And likewise, when you start the course, there's a great level of support. So you get assigned a personal tutor, which you have regular catch-ups with and discuss what you need to be successful with the SQE, the course, and as well as any pastoral support you require. You have town halls throughout the course, which help you orientate yourself for the week ahead, as mentioned, and surgeries to ask any questions that you may have. And the surgeries are also designed to go through the trickier course content, which I think is really important in such an intense course. The discussion boards, so there's discussion boards for each area of law on the course as part of the SQE1 module. And you can ask any questions that you have to the expert leading that particular module of law. And you can also discuss these questions and have a conversation about your questions in the surgeries. So there are several layers of support at the College of Legal Practice, which have made me feel very comfortable very early on and throughout, and supported at every stage. I've felt supported at every stage so far. So one of the main things I considered when I looked to start the SQE course was the flexibility of the course, especially as many of you are probably working full time. The College of Legal Practice allows you to fit your studies around your schedule. So most of the work can be completed in your evenings or your weekends, whichever really works best for you. But the college does continue to give you a structure through a calendar to help you keep on track, whilst having an element of flexibility, as long as you cover the content required within the week. So generally, although the main aim of me doing this prep course is to, pass the SQE and secure a master's qualification, I have actually really enjoyed the process and the content, albeit it being very intense, I will say that. I finished the SQE 1 prep course. I've moved on to my first transactional module in dispute resolution, and it is really, really interesting. And it's a lot more practical as well, which is really refreshing. And finally, I just wanted to mention about how to, because for me, I study, I guess like many people, where I like to alternate the way I study. So sometimes looking at a screen all day, you want to mix it up and you want to move to hard copy materials just to mix it up and I guess alternate the way that you study. And that is definitely the way the College of Legal Practice it works. You can alternate the way that you study. You can highlight your materials, which are really, really good, but also have that one-on-one contact with staff members virtually, which is really helpful. And I sat the exams in July. I have to say I felt very prepared and the materials were exceptionally thorough. You go through a process of answering thousands of multiple choice questions. College of Legal Practice really, really do help you prepare for the SQE 1 exam. And as mentioned, the practice MCQ questions are reflective of what is in the real life exam. I wanted to mention that it is an intense exam, so choosing the right provider is very important to support you on your SQE 1 journey. But overall, so far, I've been very happy with choosing the College of Legal Practice. So that's all I wanted to cover. But if you have any questions, please do pop them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end. But thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Ben. Before we did move on, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions to kind of delve in a little bit more to what you've said, because we don't often have students join on here, so it's always great to have a student join us and really give us some feedback and some understanding of what your journey's been. Sure. I think think back to when you were choosing your course in February. What were the key things that you were looking for when you were trying to find a provider and how you wanted to study? And then how did kind of the college fit into that?
Yeah, of course. So I think one thing I would say is that, it can be quite overwhelming, especially with the SQE being a new qualification, and it's a completely different structure to what we've known as the LPC previously. So I remember when I was looking, I felt a little bit lost at times. I was looking at all these different providers, meanwhile trying to get to grips with a new qualification. It is difficult. But one thing I noticed is the support from the get-go with the College of Legal Practice. So I reached out and I think I got a response within the hour from the student support team, and they were so helpful with all of my various different questions. I had many at the time, and I got a really good feeling at the beginning, even from just the initial questions I had. I had initial calls with the student experience team, and it just was really refreshing. And that was kind of the differentiator for me. I got a really good impression at the beginning from the support. And then as I've progressed through the course, I think that support has continued. So Catherine is my lovely personal tutor and was for the SQE 1 prep course. And, it was just really refreshing. I said to Catherine, actually, that, I've done several years of education and, I've actually felt more supported at the College of Legal Practice than I have previously in other parts of my educational background. So no, it's been really refreshing. And I think one thing for me is the flexibility of the course, as I've mentioned, because working full-time and studying it is intense, and it's not something that you should go into lightheartedly. However, I found that because this is a virtual provider, it's designed to be a virtual provider from day one. So it really does work as a virtual provider. And, I can do my preparation for, now the dispute resolution module that I'm doing, but also the SQE 1 prep course when I was doing it, anytime, whenever suits me. And I had that constant contact with anyone that I needed, whether that be students or staff. So I think the two things, the support and the flexibility, they were the two main things I was looking for, and they are the two things that the college, two of many things, but two of the main things that the College of Legal Practice can offer.
Real. I think you kind of touched on my next question there, which is brilliant, was around kind of you're a paralegal, you work full time. How do you find managing the town halls, the surgeries, your one-to-one supervisor sessions around your job? How do you find, and then not even including the activities you need to complete, etc. How do you find managing all of that?
Sure, no, and it's intense, and I would say anyone has to go into it knowing that they have to commit a certain amount of hours to their studying. It is very full on. Having said that, I think you do have to, and Catherine, as my personal tutor, is a very different way of studying. And as Catherine will say to me, I'm sure, that we worked, I think, on the first few weeks, actually trying to really get a study plan going and how I was going to fit studying into kind of what is already my very busy life. So, it's a very different way of learning. You do kind of have to be really self-disciplined in putting those hours in. Having said that, it is definitely possible. So how I worked kind of around my study plan is evenings and weekends largely. It is important to give yourself a break, so you do have to factor that in as well. Obviously, as kind of the SQE1 was approaching, those hours do slowly but surely increase when you're trying to integrate revision in there. But Catherine and I, we caught up many times on a weekly basis at times, and those sessions are scheduled around you. I always found that, lunch times when I was working worked really best for me. The town halls are always scheduled around a lunch hour, so I could just pop off for half an hour and do a quick session. And you can do that, in my experience, from the comfort of your own desk, because it is a virtual provider. So, it is possible. It's intense, but it's definitely possible. And I found that because the College of Legal Practice is a virtual provider, that was a lot easier than, say, me running to a different building somewhere and being there, in person. So, but it is definitely possible. It is intense, but more than possible.
Real. I think to finish with a last question, just to kind of round off your journey. Obviously, like you said, in the summer you sat SQE1, and we've had lots of feedback from students about how that was, and a very different experience. How did you personally find, just applying to do the exam, going to do the exam? How did you find applying yourself to it was?
Sure, definitely. I keep using the word intense. It is a long exam, and it is an intense, well, not exam, exams plural. It is very intense because obviously you're covering several areas of law over 2 papers on 2 days, so 4 papers in total, to cover FLK1 and FLK2. So it is very intense. And I think the thing for me, and one thing that was really new, is the structure of the actual question. So it is it's a multiple choice, but it's best answer. So every possible answer to the question can be right, and that you're almost trying to pick the best answer in that possible scenario. That for me was, I guess, the trickiest thing. It's not just a case of learning content and regurgitating it in the exam, it's actually applying it. And I think that's one thing I felt very prepared for in terms of corpus preparation for that exam. When I went in, I felt there was, multiple choice questions that were definitely reflective of what I, in the thousands that I prepared for in terms of questions, that were reflective in the actual exam, which was super helpful, and it really just give you a confidence boost. But in terms of the practicalities of sitting the exam, you book on the SRA website, so separate to the College of Legal Practice and separate to, I guess, every provider out there. And yeah, it was quite a straightforward process in terms of booking. And, I felt prepared. I think one thing that was really helpful in terms of the College of Legal Practice is Catherine did a recorded session on how to actually, what to expect on the day, even little things like what you can bring into the exam, ID checks, and it really does help you because it's, you do go into it and it's a very intense days. So, no, I felt very prepared. It's very intense, but, I think I was prepared in the best possible way I can be.